corrections to the agenda?
I straightened up the numbering under the drain. I don't know what happened there.
That's quite all right.
And add a drain one on the first.
Sure, okay. I guess if nothing else,
Hey, Chad.
morning, Chad. We will go ahead and ask for a motion to approve the minutes. Okay, second?
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign, motion carried. Okay. As far as open mic, Gary, do you have anything at this point in time or later?
Excuse me, I'd like to ask a question if the pipe is open between Hurdsfield Lake and East Lake.
Yeah, it's still open. So.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. We'll move into old business then. Hurdsfield project, any updates with that, Thomas?
The only update that I have really is just, I guess, ask the question if the equipment has showed up yet, that cable and batteries, or if you've seen any invoices on that.
Tammy says no. So.
Have you seen an invoice?
Who would the invoice be from?
It'd be from Tech Sales.
Nope.
Okay. I reached out with Tech Sales yesterday, and I didn't get any reply back. I'll speak to, so Travis DeGroot is the guy. I'll reach out to him just to see where things are at, and yeah.
Okay. Have you heard anything from the DEQ as far as our emergency permit? Have they got back to you at all?
They have not. I guess a couple weeks ago, I sent the DEQ, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, I sent the DEQ kind of the past test results that the Water Resource District had, and asked the question on the emergency permit, and he said he would get back to the Water Resource District when we find more out. That's the last I heard.
Okay. Okay. And those were the test results from the 9th or 9/4/25. Is that correct?
That was from, I did previous years, so all the previous data that the Water Resource District had.
Okay. So that's the stuff that you and I talked about then. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle Hart has joined our meeting as well. Okay. I guess if nothing else, we'll move on to the 55th Avenue crossing or issue, whatever you want to call it. All the Amicus briefs have been filed. They're from the North Dakota Water Resource Districts Association. Ours has been filed. And now it's just a matter of reply from Fairville Township by the 5th of October. Is that correct, Cal?
Yep, that's right.
Okay, I don't know if any of you guys read through any of that stuff. I think Dan is Gusted, I think is how you pronounce his last name. Gosted, okay. I think he did a pretty good job of explaining things. So I guess we'll see where that goes. But do you have anything to add to that, Cale, as far as that?
No, but as soon as there's a reply brief filed, Brian Schmidt usually forwards it on to Larry and Tammy right away, so Tammy will forward it to the board.
Okay. And I guess moving on from there, the spraying of the drains is completed as well. And obviously culvert inspections have not taken place because of the water issues that don't seem to go away. Okay, with that, I guess we will just move into new business, and I guess first thing will be Silver Lake. drainage issue. As you can see, the pictures that Gary sent to Tammy yesterday. And I guess, Gary, you want to make any comments on this?
Not necessarily, it's just an informational, pictures, I guess.
Okay.
It's Silver Lake, WMA, there's two Silver Lakes that are talked about sometimes.
Right.
And this is off the WMA, and that doesn't necessarily have a name, that lake, so.
Okay.
But
I guess, Gary, one thing that I will inform you of as a board is that, unless somebody files a complaint against this, we can't do anything with it. Is that correct, Cale?
Right. There's an order to have the dam in place, or I guess there's an order to dismiss the complaint because the alleged drainage was filled in, and nobody has appealed that order. So our board's jurisdiction has ended until another complaint is filed. We can't, if we were to start doing something based on that email and pictures, Gary, and if someone were to challenge that, we wouldn't have any record to show that this new concern originated from a complaint. So until a new complaint is filed and that policy signed and we follow that new policy, I don't know if the board can do anything right now.
it's much the same circumstances as before, I don't know who did it.
Okay. And as far as, and I guess I'll tell you this also, Gary, we were down there with the DEQ. That's been about a month ago, isn't it? Something like that. Yeah. We met with them, a couple of county commissioners, 3 of us board members, some township people were there as well. And the water was actually coming, was seeping through there already. So regardless, I guess what happened is, with this, the water was already running through there. And so, okay. Anything?
I realize the water, this is a natural thing, I realize it goes over there. Many years it runs all winter, but by the fact that it's being lowered, it's taking more water off the lake on the WMA and pushing it downstream, and eventually it gets us.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's a 520 acre lake on the WMA, all told.
Mm-hmm.
So if you take half a foot off of that, that's 250 acre feet of water coming down that necessarily wouldn't come down.
Mm-hmm. Okay. But like Cale stated, unless you want to file a complaint with it or something, there's really nothing that we can do.
I can't fill out the form because I don't know who did it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Devin, you want to make a comment?
Yeah, no complaint, so we should move on. Nothing filed, then we'll move on.
Okay. Anybody else have anything with that? Okay. Proposed assessed drain in progress in Holland Township. As of right now, we do have a letter in here. Oh, okay, that's from Cale too. Philip Hoff was working on a drain in progress in Holland Township. Is what he was doing, started working with, and I don't know. Cale, do you want to just chat a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So he had approached Larry and Apex Engineering to start putting together an alignment that would lead to a petition for an assessment drain project. And he arrived at an alignment that he wanted to get into petition form and then circulate. So I spoke to Larry and he said, yeah, go ahead and, since it's covered by the petitioner's bond anyway, get a petition drafted that would meet the Century Code requirements. So I got the maps from Apex Engineering, we got the petition in draft form, and then I sent it off to Apex and to Larry to take a look at. That same day, later in that day, then Philip had called back and said one of the downstream landowners who he had approached he said that he had approached them to clean out a high spot that was causing flooding. At the time that he had first discussed with the landowner, Philip said that landowner wasn't cooperative. But then once that landowner heard there was a potential petition coming forward, then he had reached out to Philip and said that he would potentially work with Philip on something privately. So Philip said he would, cover the Apex and Rinke-Noonan invoices to date, but just to put things on hold, Philip was going to go out and hire an attorney to draft up an easement agreement and try to work out some kind of private project with this landowner. So in the meantime, the petition, as far as I know, hasn't been circulated, hasn't been signed, hasn't been filed. I suppose if the private deal falls apart, I expect Philip's going to likely go forward and file this petition with the board, but until that time, we don't have anything to act on. So I had told Tammy, the board's going to approve invoices for this work probably next month for Apex and Rinke-Noonan, and then just to forward those to Philip, and Philip will reimburse the district for those costs. So I think we could take it off of the agenda going forward until we have a petition. Larry, you had mentioned maybe some local landowners would be interested in doing like an informational meeting in this area, and we can still put something like that together if there's just a need to do basic education on assessment drains. But I think that can happen independently of whatever Philip's doing with his project, privately or petition or otherwise.
Okay. I know Devin has talked with Philip and I both about it, and the discussion was, make that project encompass a larger area, because this is basically the Pipestem Creek that we're talking about. There's problem areas like everywhere else, with cattails or whatever, and roads flooding and washing out, and I had a discussion with one of the other landowners down there as well, that was kind of, who's a township supervisor in Holland, and we talked about the benefits of a assessed drain and how that would help these townships, because these townships down in that area are really strapped for money, and that's not going to go away. And Tammy knows what kind of damages they receive down there almost on a yearly basis, it seems like.
And I think next spring is going to be awful for Southern Wells County. We're going into the fall too.
Yeah. Really wet, and if we get any snow to amount to anything, it's not going to be pretty down there. So, Devin, did you want to make any comments on that drain?
I did discuss it with some other farmers down in this area, and put it in a brash. It went over like a wet fart in church. It was not good. A lot of it was not understanding, and I don't know. This is going to be it's literally going to be a fight all the way through.
I think the
Guys just don't want to do. They don't understand it. And then you got the downstream, where we were talking on ending it. You go down another, 2 miles, and those guys, that gets into the Sykeston area, and those guys really get hot about it, because everyone's conception of this is, we're going to upsize culverts and send more water and trying to explain to them, no, the drains are going to get cleaned. The water's going to flow the way water's supposed to flow, instead of hitting roads, topping roads, and losing control. just, you can't seem to get it in people's heads that this is, to me, it's a good thing. To me it is, but there's a lot of pushback on it, just from a few guys that I have just mentioned it to, you know.
Biggest problem, they don't understand how they work.
Correct, and they don't want to, I mean, if you've been in our area, well, you all probably haven't, just seen how inundated with cattails and culverts are. I mean, there's culverts that are just crushed. There's a road that a guy just told me, oh, that culvert's closed, and it's like, well, how many, we replace it, but it comes along with not cleaning the drains out too, and getting them sprayed out, and also having substantial rainfall the last, you know, what is it, 10 years, 9, 10 years. So especially this year, we've got a lot of rainfall.
What percentage of those people, Devin, do you think just don't want to learn? Or can they be, you know, can it be talked about and discussed so they understand it, so it doesn't turn into such a battle? Because that's just what water seems to do, but. You know, if you don't want to understand, then you can't teach them anything. You can't teach them anything, but if there's a good percentage of them that can understand that if we get this water moving, if we do this right, it'll be beneficial to everybody, but I don't know.
Well, yeah, and I think also a good point to touch, and that's one thing I can never answer when I talk to these guys is, because I didn't get in on I got in on the tail end of the Hurdsfield project, but the upfront costs and everything, that's where, you know, especially on a, you know, bringing it up on a year like this, the guys like, well, there ain't no money around anyway, you guys are just, you know, drain tile nuts, and it's just, it turned into a whole ordeal. There's always, you know, there's one yes and 20 no's, you know.
Does the state cost share funding come up at all?
I brought that up to a couple of them, yes. Because that's what a 60/40, right?
Yes, it 60 or 65, Thomas. What did it just get increased to?
60.
60. So cash flow is one thing. You either have it or you don't, and I get that there's still 40% to do, but the counties that take advantage of that increased cost share while it's available, you know, we'll see the state pay for the bulk share of an increase in property value in their counties, and the counties that don't will get left behind. And so it sounds to me like the biggest education piece is the engineering, but and that's too bad because you know, the state is willing to dump a lot of money into increasing the value of properties for folks in Wallace County, but we can't, if they don't want it, we can't force it. The landowners have to want it.
And something else that they don't grasp either is, you know, the conversation I had with one of the township supervisors down there is that, well, you know, we got all these culverts and stuff that, you know, we're replacing and doing this and that, and we can't afford. And I said, well, this is the reason that you need it, is because then all of a sudden the county comes in instead of the townships, and they pay for 40%, and the, you know, Water Resource District pays for 60%, which is assessed back to the, you know, the people in the assessment district that it benefits. And, you know, so it takes that burden away from the township. And not only that, it can be engineered and designed to control the flow of water. You know, a prime example was 2019 when we all know how that flooding was in that year. In Emmerich Drain and Oak Creek Drain, we never overtopped a single road. You know, we were able to manage the water with the gates. And
to take liability off these road authorities. I mean, one day someone's going to say, I'm losing too much money here for this culvert that's not engineered and undersized, and they'll, you know, they're going to go after the township and say you're liable for those damages. So
yeah.
Is there any way? I know this is going to, that we could get like a draft of a letter of the pros, like what you guys just talked about, and I can kind of buzz around the area and like, hey, hand this or send it to these, because I kind of roughly know who would be in these assessments because we did have it outlined. I think Apex did an outline of this already.
Mhm.
I did see that my opinion, his outline was a little off because it cut me out of it. And I'd like to push it north a little bit.
Devin, what are you asking for? An educational piece about assessment drains generally, or some kind of specific map or alignment or watershed type document?
Just a thing that gives pros and cons, like there's the 60-40 split from the 60-40 split from the state. There's also we can control it, kind of like what you and Larry were just discussing, some points that kind of hit, because those were some of the things that the farmer said to me was, well, we need to control it. And I said, well, we can make that happen. And they're like, oh yeah, it's like, well, is this something I can hand, the pros on it, things like that, because those are a lot of the concerns that these farmers in this area have.
The Renville County Water Board hired Jennifer Thomas and I to prepare one for a few months ago for a similar informational meeting up in Pauley, North Dakota. So let me call their chair, Peter Gates. I'm sure he'll say yes, but let me ask if we can just circulate that around to the board and you can review it. And if it covers what you want, great, print it and use it. If not, we can maybe start from there and just add some additional info to it. But it was basically an outline of how this process works, included information about the cost share. I think it'll hit a lot of the points you're touching on here.
In Bottineau County, how many?
Yeah, if everyone. Sorry, Larry, go ahead.
In Bottineau County, how many legal drains have they set up in the last 5 years? 6?
We've
7?
done 10 drains in the last 10 years.
10 years, okay.
So we've been averaging one a year. And they're just wrapping up construction of 2 of them right now. And there is one that's in the works. One of the leaders passed away. So we're kind of waiting to see what happens now that he's passed. But yeah, for the last 10 years, on average, 1 year.
There's lots of benefits to them.
And all of those have been cost shared.
Yep. And the people just need to be educated with them.
I think one of the advantages they have up there is that they had some of the first assessment drains in the state. And so there isn't an area of Bottineau County that it's hard to be a farmer and not have your land in at least one assessment district up there anymore. So when the petitions come forward, the education piece is done. They're saying, oh, our land can be as productive here as, my other land here, and I just have to pay this small assessment. And so that's why they're getting votes of 80, 90, almost 100% yes votes on their projects. But they have that momentum, which we don't have everywhere in Wells County yet. So,
I mean, if everyone's okay with that, I would definitely like an informational piece and would like to be able to circulate that. I'll probably get a lot of backlash right away, but just sitting here, I know that I'm in favor of it. I live here. It's not fun, and Tammy knows what our township goes through on a yearly basis with culverts and roads being washed out and everything. So
we'll get that circulated, Devin.
Okay. Anything else with that? If
Not for me.
Okay. If not, we will go into the tile stuff now. Notifications. We've got 2 notifications. One from Brad Tweed. And the other one would actually be, is it Mason Family Partnership or something like that? Would be the other one. So then we don't need to act on those. So
I'll have you sign everything when we're done.
yes, okay.
Tammy, that second one on the agenda, I don't think it has that section number. What's the section number of the one in 14871?
Oh, section 4.
Yep, northeast of 4. Sorry about
Northeast of 4. Okay, got it.
That would be the Mason Family Partnership or whatever it's called. I don't know why Ellingson's put their name in there, but
that.
is that the correct way to do it, Kale?
Did they use the form that the DWR
Yeah.
provides?
Yep.
And I didn't get a copy of them. So what do they say on them? What did Ellingson do?
Well, contact information, it says contact Ellingson's, and they put Ellingson companies in there.
Well, it says notification provided by Ellingson's.
Oh, yeah, okay, yep.
Yeah, the statute just says a person before constructing, so
Okay,
it's okay. It probably could be clearer in statute, but technically I think that's all statute.
okay. Alrighty. Now for tile permits, they're still not completed, correct?
Yeah, so I tried to provide good government service as much as I could. I reached out by email to both Peter and Grow Drain Tile. I called Peter and he said call Ezra at Grotberg at Grow Drain Tile. So I called Ezra. I said, we need the tax statements for both the land to be tiled and the downstream parcels. And he said, well, I do this in Barnes County and Cass County, they never required that. I just said, I know Cass County's got some full-time staff members, but they're at a little bit different tax base than we are. Just call the Wells County tax assessor and get them. So he sent the tax statements for the ones to be tiled, but he didn't send the tax statements for any of the properties downstream. So I did ask Thomas to look, and Thomas, do any of these systems outlet directly into a pond, slough, lake, or water course where there wouldn't need to be a tax statement from someone downstream?
They don't outlet directly into any waterway, slough, or lake. There is a small portion that it needs to drain through to get to one of those items. There would be something required, but nothing shorter than what they have in their maps. Is what I'm seeing.
So then, yeah, I think the thing to do would be I can work with Thomas to narrow down, from the outlet to the nearest water course, pond, slough, or lake, how many properties are crossed, and then list out these are the tax statements we need. But right now the applications aren't complete, so we can't act on them, unfortunately. But they know the meeting's today, and that if they didn't get it in by 7, they were going to have to wait a month to do it. So it was clear to them they shouldn't be upset with us. They didn't even forward anything other than the properties to be tiled. So we'll follow up with them and then put this on the agenda for next month.
Say, Thomas, are these, where they got these blue lines on those, are they actually a blue line water course?
They are not from.
Are you talking about the blue lines on the maps that they submitted to us, Larry?
Yeah.
So those are the downstream flow lines. So what they have to do is submit a map drawing for 1 mile from the outlet of the system. For up to 1 mile, where's the water going to go?
Mm-hmm.
The blue line, when people talk about, blue line water courses, they're referring to a blue line on the United States Geological Survey topographic maps, which those blue lines are representations from the original government land surveyors saying, there's a bed and bank here and sufficient flow for the land surveyors to call it a water course. And it's one piece of evidence, a strong piece of evidence that water boards and the Department of Water Resources use when they determine whether something is a water course or not. But it's not determinative. It's just one piece of information. They just drew their flow lines in blue, so that's why they look like blue lines on the map.
Okay. So are some of these, because up in this area, there's a fair amount of just large sloughs that don't go anywhere. Is that what we're draining into on this stuff?
I can do a share screen here of Google Earth. Give me 1 second.
I guess what my concern is I know a little bit about the area, because I've actually drove around up in that area. And quite a few years ago, we had a drainage complaint up in there too. And there's a lot of permanent sloughs that, and if they're not on these guys' land, and they're gonna dump more water into them.
Yeah, so there's two systems here. There's this one in the southwest of 2 and a portion of the east half of section 3. And then there's this one in a portion of the south half of section 4. So this one to the east all flows to a 15-inch outlet here. And then according to the tax statements or the JS data, it looks like Peter Pranke owns, a little bit downstream of the outlet, and then it turns to a new landowner as it flows north. And then this line that I drew on Google Earth matches where the applicant represented the water flow will go. Here on the system to the west, it flows into a 12-inch outlet, then into this low-lying wet area, and they're saying it's going to go east and then north. Most of this basin up here, and I think all of this basin, I believe, are on Pranke-owned property. But a corner of this basin, I think, is owned by a different property owner, is what it looks like to me. And so, if you're asking what happens if this tile system causes, this basin here, can you see my cursor on your end?
It's off to the left of the picture.
Oh, it is. Well, maybe I'll just drop a pin. If
Okay.
where I just put the pin right there in that basin, if that one were to overflow and spill onto someone else's property, the tile permitting that the water board doesn't address the property rights issue. It's not a shield for Frankie's for downstream impacts, and it's also not. It doesn't bind or prevent the downstream landowners from, bringing a claim for damages. So. And it says that right in the statute. So our permitting focuses on a very limited set of concerns and issues. Whether this downstream ponds or sloughs or whatever you want to call them are adequate for holding this drained water is really on the landowner doing the tiling to take that risk. We don't spend any money on Apex looking into that because we can't deny a permit on that basis, and whether we grant it or deny it, it doesn't impact the property rights of the landowners. So Thomas, I'm assuming has looked at, this area, and if he says, well, this meets the definition of a slough, then the property tax statements would be, just between the outlet and that first slough that it hits. So what I'm proposing is, we'll get together with Thomas and figure out his recommendation on where these flow lines turn into either a slough or a water course, and then say we need those downstream tax statements, to act on those. But Thomas, we do have the tax statement, so for this system in section 4, we do have the tax statement for the southwest quarter of 3. So if your opinion is that this slough in the southwest corner is a slough, then the board probably should act on that one today. Because what we don't have is tax statements, up here, and we don't have here. So I don't know, are you able to tell us where your opinion is of where the nearest slough is at? Is it this basin here, or is it not till up here, or somewhere different?
According to the definitions, where you had that marker, that would be considered a slough according to the North Dakota definition.
Right here.
Yep.
Okay. Well, we do have the tax statements for that, Larry, then, so I do think we probably should act on that one, and then we can, table this one till the next month, and we'll send a follow-up on where the water course or for slough is and the tax statements needed up there.
Okay. I guess I'll just ask for a motion to approve, the southeast quarter section 4 tile permit.
With standard conditions.
Yeah, with standard conditions, yep.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, for a second. Don't all jump at once.
I can't do it all the time.
Tom seconded it. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign, motion carried.
Do you wanna go through the conditions?
Yeah, these are all natural outlets, or, gravity
Gravity
flow
flow.
outlets, yeah.
That's right, yep.
So, let's see here. Okay. We don't have a pump. I would say the installation of the maintenance. Reestablishment of disturbed areas. That's pretty much all the general ones, minimal setback for water lines, obviously. Now, we can't, on a gravity one, we can't force them to do a control structure, can we?
You can, yep. So a control structure on a gravity flow would either be like a flat gate or, you know, there's a couple different ways they can do it, but the board can add that. I'm just pulling up the last one to see if we normally do.
It's been kind of a case by case, and it would be adding like a sluice gate at the end, a life gate.
Yeah. And who made the rules don't realize that you can't close off a tile, gravity flow tile, because it will just blow out anyway.
Yeah. I specifically remember that being talked about during the committee hearing.
Because the water will come to the surface and wash it out. So I guess, what are your guys' thoughts? Put that as a condition?
Control?
Yeah.
I don't know, I guess without understanding the system, you know, yeah, I mean, it's so hard to call.
Well,
Just sitting here.
Basically, you have a knife gate that shuts off the end of the pipe.
Right.
Okay. Well, we all know that water flows downhill, correct?
It's
And
been disputed, but go ahead.
Well, anyway, most of the tile lines are put in at a 1/10 rate. So for every 1,000 feet, you got a foot of drop. And what happens is it'll run to that gate, and when it gets enough pressure, it'll push the water to the surface and just start coming out of the pipe that way. And sometimes I've heard of it where it will actually literally lift the pipe out of the ground and break it apart, and then it just, it's gone. So, do we want to put that in there or not?
If we do put it in there, Larry, in that box below, we have to check what the method will be for notifying the landowner when to close that control structure. And, you know, we don't currently have a system in place for like posting on the website for everybody or measuring by some kind of flood stage gauge or any other sort of trigger. So we would just need to check direct notification from the water board. And, you know, I suppose it would be on an ad hoc type basis, but.
Personally, I don't like that idea. Because,
You mean making them put a control in?
Yeah.
Well, I don't see how you can make them put a control in, but obviously who's gonna control the control?
yeah, it just opens up another can of worms.
Right. Yeah.
We've got tile pumps out there. There's one over east of Paul Kirkguy's. There's one down on Highway 30 going down south of Cafe. That there is, in 2019, it was blowing the water right out of the top of the sump. That's how much pressure those get. So, you know, just to me, that's just kind of a joke that they put that even on here. But
I wouldn't be in favor of it, but that's me.
I think we'll just skip it. Permit amendments, the project just changed me yet. Well, that's one of them that we do. Assessment or reassessment of considerations.
I don't think there's any assessment drains downstream of this.
No.
Okay.
Removal of silt and vegetation. Is that one that we've been checking? I don't think so, is it?
To my knowledge, we've only checked that one time, and it was a very specific,
That was right into our
Situation.
sustain ditch, right?
yeah, right.
Okay. Actually, Thomas, if you don't mind, make a list of the standard, considerations that we normally do sometime, if you don't mind. And then we don't need to go through that each time.
Will do.
All right, thank you. Okay,
We should have a motion to table the other one then.
I guess I got a question with that, Kale. Can we approve the other one since we really can't deny the permit anyway? Can we approve it on the contingency that he gets you that information? And then I just come in and sign it later, or what are your thoughts?
The application's not supposed to be on the agenda until it's
Okay,
complete, but the board can always delegate authority. So if the board wanted to delegate authority to Larry to approve it contingent on, providing these tax statements, I'm fine with that.
any thoughts on that?
I'd make that motion. I would too, because it obviously makes sense.
Okay, so one's a motion, one's second, right? Okay.
That's a new thought.
Okay, all in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Right.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Now I'll ask for a motion to approve the tile permit on the contingency that we get all the proper tax statements.
Yeah.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion on that? All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
So what was your first motion then?
That was just approval for me to sign
I
that.
thought that could have been all one motion.
True.
Okay.
Oh, well. Okay. Right-of-way permit.
So that was on that Pierre Frankie too. Cause the next tile permit was pulled, cause it was only 29 acres.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're going to be submitting a tile notification form for the northeast quarter of the northeast quarter of section 5. So just one section to the west of the ones that were just approved for a 2 horsepower pump. That'll be in the northeast corner. It'll then flow north in the west road ditch of Highway 30, and then they show it crossing Highway 30 from west to east, and then flowing directly east across section 33 in the township to the north. They for that pump, to put that pump and outlet it into the state highway right of way, the DOT office wants them to complete that right of way maintenance form. And so I think traditionally we've approved these and said, as long as it's maintenance, then no drain permit is needed for whatever work you're doing in the right of way. And so I think Tammy in the minutes in the motion always listed as, approved, subject to understanding that any proposed work is limited to maintenance. And then the DOT, requires the water board to sign off on it, just as showing that we're aware that someone is using state highway right away for a drainage purpose.
Question on this, Kale. Is there intent to ditch this down to that location?
I don't know. I assume so, because I don't think that you need a permit from the state to just put a pump on your property and run the water into the road ditch.
Mm-hmm.
But the DOT is, I don't know, I've heard all sorts of crazy stuff the last couple of weeks from the DOT, so I'm not, maybe the DOT has just said, well, we don't have a problem with you putting water in a road ditch as long as you have the water board sign off on it on this form. I don't know. But I think that's why, we should in the motion to approve this, if you pass it, state in that motion that it's being approved, subject to our understanding that any work down in the right of way is limited to maintenance, because that's what doesn't require a drain permit.
Okay,
But they could, without water board approval or notification, they could go clean out a road ditch right of way limited to maintenance. They only need the permission of a road authority to do that.
okay, so do we have somebody want to make a motion to that effect? Nobody wants to make a motion? Devin?
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
Tammy, make it sound good.
Okay.
I think what we'll do is Kale, would you, help give a definition of that, the actual
Yeah.
wording for that?
I'll email to you, Tammy, but it's a motion to approve the right of way permit, subject to the condition that any work in the right of way is limited to maintenance.
Okay, you got all that, okay. All righty. Okay, Devin made the motion, is there a second? Okay, Brian made second, any further discussion on that? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carried. Okay. We got through that. Okay, proposed DWR admin changes.
So on Friday, I filed the comments that I circulated to the board, requesting some improvements to the Department of Water Resources proposed rule changes. Those were filed by the 5 o'clock deadline Friday. From here, now that the comment period is closed, the department needs to gather all of the comments it received. It needs to write written responses to each of those comments, including an explanation of where it's making changes based on comments, and if it's not making changes, why it's not making any changes based on the comments. And then they will provide us a written response to our comments. So as soon as I get those, I'll circulate those to the board. Once the department provides written responses to the comments and its final draft of the rule, then it packages all that up and sends it to the Legislative Rules Committee. And I circulated some info about that committee, who the members are, what their process is by email. But the high points of it are that the committee's job is to look through and make sure that the final rule meets the legislative intent of the statutes that the rule is enacted under. That the department followed all the procedures required by law for doing rulemaking, and to find that the responses to the comments was adequate. And if the committee feels that the department didn't meet one of those 3 requirements, it can then object to the final rule and delay it until the department makes the necessary corrections. So there's no action items for today, but just information, and I'll just keep passing that along to the board as it comes along.
And Senator Klein is actually on that rules committee as well, and I had a lengthy discussion with him on Saturday on some of this stuff. And Jerry said that it's probably a good idea to, have some conversations with some of these people prior to whenever they meet on these rule changes. Especially for the fact that, they told us last winter that they would work with us on this, and there was never a meeting, no mention of nothing. They just come with a bunch of rule changes. So that'll be an ongoing process. Gary, I see you got your hand raised. Got something?
Yes, I'd like to know the current elevation of East Lake.
I can't tell you that at this point in time.
And then 2, when will the pipe be closed from Hurdsfield Lake to East Lake? Is there an elevation that's going to be closed, or what's the criteria?
Yeah, I do believe you have all that information, don't you, Gary?
I'd like to hear from the board what your current opinion is.
It's not an opinion, Gary, it's a fact. You have a copy of the operations plan.
For the record, could you give me that elevation?
Not at this time, Gary. We're gonna move on.
Okay, the third question is, I asked the question at last board meeting where the video was shot, and you said you'd get back to me. I haven't received anything on that question either.
What video are you referring to?
Last board meeting, regular board meeting, a video was shown of the water, the damages or whatever. And I asked where exactly that was, so I'd have some reference.
I don't recall a video. I know there was a lot of pictures taken down there, but I don't recall a video. Does anybody else
If
remember
not,
a video?
if not a video, pictures, where that location was of those photographs.
Down by me,
Yeah.
Shales and
Shales and.
Wackerly.
Oh,
That's the.
that was
That was last month's review, what we talked about, with Al,
Solder.
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 on, Highway 3, yeah.
okay.
No,
That's the only pictures I remember.
Well, there
if
was,
you want, like, you could review the video. People Press with Harvey records the meetings, and it probably would be on there that it was referenced.
okay.
Sure it wasn't the one that Corey sent us, or the one when
It
we
was,
way down.
it was in fact, but I asked the location.
Okay, yeah,
And that was the only other video, but
well,
there's like.
we sent a bunch of pictures to the DEQ.
Yeah.
Is that what you asked me, the coordinates or whatever section that was? And we sent you those before DEQ meeting?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. He's thinking
Okay.
It's the one that's way down south of
Okay,
Hurdsfield.
let's see here, I'll pull that up on my phone real quick. Okay, yeah, you did send me some coordinates. It's 33rd Avenue, Gary, and 34th Avenue, Silver Lake, section 10. And I'm not sure if that's what you're referring to or not, because we sent a boatload of pictures to the DEQ.
I asked a specific question about the video or photographs or visual evidence of water within the Hurdsfield drain. And it was at the beginning of the last meeting in August, so.
Well, this
33rd Avenue and what?
33rd Avenue, 34th Avenue, and Silver Lake, section 10. That's where the pictures, let's see, this was back in July though.
That was for that DEQ meeting.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's what made them guys come up.
yeah, right. Okay,
Just a viable.
okay.
But the video and pictures were the Al Solder, Wackerly, Culvert, Mertz.
Yeah, we've had so many pictures lately.
I think this was a video of water coming into Hurdsfield Lake from Silver Lake.
But there was another video of all the water coming from south of Hurdsfield into Silver Lake. That's the one I'm thinking of. But whether that, I'm not saying, that's just the one I kind of remember, but. And I think your dad had sent that, Kurt, so I mean, I guess, Gary wanted
I
that.
just had photos.
Yeah.
You know, probably
I got-
the same topic also.
Yeah,
Because here's the pictures that you sent me of that water coming in.
Yeah.
And that'd be like, is that 33rd Avenue? No,
That
yeah,
was basically right in the middle of 33rd and 34th
okay,
Avenue, section 2.
okay. Okay, move on to the bills.
I got one question for Kale. Kale, when all these assessed drains are done in the state, are sulfate levels ever discussed?
Well,
And if not, do we have wording on ours that makes ours such that it's a, I sit and think about if all this assessed drains in the state and the sulfate levels are X.
Yeah.
Ours are below that, why are we restricted and they're not?
Well,
I don't
remember the
know.
history of Hurdsfield and how that came about.
Yeah,
There's no permitting process. So unlike the Army Corps, unlike the DWR, you don't go to the DEQ and say, can we get a permit for this and what are those conditions? You either comply or you don't comply. And someone I think made a complaint and then DEQ was there saying, you got to make sure that you're monitoring these sulfate levels. So that could happen to anybody. I suppose it's unique to Hurdsfield for two reasons. One is because of the sulfate levels in Hurdsfield in these lakes, and then two, the water quality level of the outlet. So if you don't have one of those two things on an assessment drain, then you probably are less concerned that you've got a water quality compliance issue.
Okay, bills, Apex Engineering, somebody wanna make a motion to pay that bill?
Yeah.
Is there a second?
no second.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign, motion carried. Rinke-Noonan bill, somebody wanna make a motion for that?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Yep.
Alrighty, all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay, now, Smith,
All of them.
that's our brief.
Yep.
Or for the appeal for the, Fairville Township lawsuit. Somebody wanna make a motion to pay that bill?
I'll move.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Is that as far as it's gonna go, or is it more?
I would say that once we get to oral arguments, there'll be some more there, correct?
Yep.
Okay. So, any other
I
discussion?
hope that works out, right?
Yeah,
Sure.
sure. I think we stand a pretty good chance with that. Any further discussion? Not all in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Minnesota Valley.
Yeah.
Second? Second. Any discussion? Not, all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Thomas, will you look into that testing equipment again and see if they can't? Kinda hard to know whether we can turn pumps on or not without that stuff in, but.
Yes, I'm gonna check in with, tech sales, for where things are at. I know there was a lead time for that cable, probably about 6 weeks. We're probably coming up close to that. The question I got from Missouri Valley Testing Lab, was, does the board want to do, sampling in October? I told them yes as of now, unless I hear different, so it's kind of an update on that too.
Okay,
Depends on, if the board wants to do testing in October or not.
okay. Anybody else have anything?
I have,
Okay.
so this, GRO drain tile, they gave me a check for $1,500, but being they pulled one of the tile permits, I'll have to send them $500 back as a, refund.
Okay.
Do I need a motion on that?
Do we need to have a motion for that, Cal?
Yeah, if the check is cashed, Tammy,
No, I still have the check here. It was I got it yesterday.
you could stamp it void and mail it back.
Okay.
And then you wouldn't need a motion for that. If you were to cash it, you would need a motion to authorize the new check
Okay.
from the account.